Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Silentpinkgamer and we're back here to talk about the first episode of House of Dragons. I'm super excited because I love dragons. Ever since Blue Eyes White Dragon, ever since you name it, I fell in love with dragons. Dragons are just amazing mythical creatures. And I could talk about dragons all day, but let's get into this episode. So, of course, guys, like, share the video, and let's get into episode 1. I'm gonna do my best to try to go in order, but hey, we have a lot to unravel here. I'm gonna try my best not to make this too long, because I want to get straight to the point. I want to get to the nitty gritty because there's a lot to uncover. So let's get into it. So, of course, guys, huge, ginormous spoiler alert. So if you have not seen episode 1, season 2, episode 1, go check it out. I'm gonna try to do this for each episode because I am super duper excited. Also, the beginning, as you can tell, that's in the background is we have a new opening, same song, same opening theme, but the tapestry is so beautiful. I just wanted to mention that from the jump. The tapestry was amazing. It's well done. I love seeing it. Like, I hope next time they do something with the dragons alone because that would be really cool. But yes, so huge, ginormous spoiler. So let's get into it. So, the first thing of the day, we get a forest. We have the crow flying and soaring in the skies. And then we get a beautiful scene of Winterfell. And of course, I will add the images that I don't have in there on the screen. So I'm glad we actually came across Winterfell because I was kind of worried that they wasn't going to give us any type of information with other houses. Like, of course, we've seen the Hightowers and of course we've seen the Lannisters, but I would love to see the Starks and other houses as well. So we get Winterfell. We also see where Rhaenyra's oldest son, Jacaerys, and his dragon, Vermax, is. And basically how he gets Kragon Stark to join, try to make sure that he's still with his mother during these hard times. And during this time, he actually gets a letter from Dragonstone. And we can all guess that's where Jacaerys gets the terrible news about his brother, Viserys. So from there, we jump to the next part where we see Rhaenyra, and she is distraught. She is just looking over the Storm's End, where her second oldest Viserys and his dragon Arax was going to talk to the Lord of Storm's End. And that's also where he also saw Aemon and Vhagar as well from season 1. So she's just looking over, distraught. You can tell that she's not okay and she's not gonna be at peace until she sees her son or some type of remains or something to indicate that he's officially gone. And that's the thing about grief, guys. It's not really gonna hit you, at least the same with me. You know, when I lost my mom, it didn't really hit me until I saw her body, until I saw her hands. And my mom had the most teeniest hands ever. So I can definitely understand this point of, you know, this point. And there's also time where you do see her dragon Syrax, and eventually she does get across. She does see overhead of some fishermen. Looks like they pulled up the wing. You'll find out it's the wing of Arax and Lucerys's clothes. I'm not for sure if there were remains in there, but there probably was at least some type of speck of him because the way Vhagar bit him at the end of season 1, I'm pretty sure his body didn't just fall out of his clothes. There probably was some type of something in there, but of course they're not going to show that. But initially, that was her moment where she saw that he is officially dead. He's gone. He is not coming back. Aegon murdered him with his dragon Vhagar, and that's when she finally just let it out. She cried, she released all that, and that scene was hard. Like I said, I am a parent. You see my daughter bouncing around in the background, and I never lost a child, but seeing my oldest sister lose a child and how much she went through, and then seeing this scene, it's unimaginable. And all those mothers out there who have lost a child, it's unimaginable. So this scene was really, really, really hard, and it was really, really like that time for Rhaenyra to really get to fully grieve initially. Also, a little tidbit I wanted to add and say, it's Aemond, not Aegon. My bad. I always tend to get them confused by name, too close to name, but it's Aemond with his dragon Vhagar. And also too, I don't know, this is allegedly now, that the reason why Syrax not only felt where Rhaenyra, yelling out, roaring out, was not just from Rhaenyra, but there's allegedly saying that Arax was actually her child. So she was also grieving as well. So obviously they didn't really state that in the show. Maybe it's somewhere out there, but I thought that was an interesting tidbit that I definitely wanted to put in there too, that there's a chance that Arax was from one of her clutches of eggs. So that was actually her baby that she also lost. So they're both grieving mothers. So from there we do get a scene with it was really cool. It was a scene with the dragon pit, where we actually get to see how the riders get on and off their dragons, kind of like a little area, and it was with Meleys, the Red Queen. I love seeing that because I was always curious, at least on Dragonstone, kind of how they did it initially. So I felt like that was a really cool tidbit, but it was a nice interaction between Daemon and Rhaenys, the queen that never was. And basically Daemon was trying to demand her to get back on the dragon, and she's like, no, we're tired, we need to rest. And she was basically just explaining like, hey, she's grieving and she's not gonna fully come back home, because at this time Rhaenyra has not been back at Dragonstone. After she heard the news, I'm pretty sure she flew out on Syrax and she went to go search. If I remember correctly in the books, it was actually Daemon who found it, but I think it brings something more deeper, that the fact that she went to go find it. You know what I mean? So I didn't mind that switch at all, if that's the truth. Like I said, if I'm incorrect, of course in the comments let me know. I did do a little tidbit reading and I don't want to spoil too much for me, but I did do my research and stuff like that before I started House of Dragons, of course. But anyway, yes, so the scene after that was just, basically her trying to explain to Daemon that, she's grieving, she's gonna come back when she gets what she needs to fully grieve her lost son. And Daemon, obviously, as we know Daemon, he don't really fully understand it. He doesn't grieve the way everyone else grieves. I do feel like he grieves, but he grieves in a different way. He's more of the person that's going to go fight in a war or go kill something or go train with a dragon as his form of grief, or he kind of withheld it in his feelings and his hurt instead of just actually taking the time to grieve and whatnot. So Daemon's grieving his own way, even though I don't feel like he was as attached to Rhaenyra's sons as he might be to his daughters, even though he was still kind of distant toward them as well. But Daemon doesn't quite get it. But that was a nice scene. And then from there, eventually when she got her peace, she does come home. She's stiff, and I liked that scene because it brought me back. I don't know if you guys felt this way, but it brought me back to Game of Thrones, where Daenerys was distraught of losing her dear friend, and she just felt severely defeated. And that's where Rhaenyra and Daenerys for me kind of resembled each other. And it was really interesting to see that. And she basically comes in, she does like a little nuzzle to Daemon, and she basically just says, "I want Aemond," and walks off to probably go take a shower, go sleep, go eat, do what she got to do. Um, so it was nice to see. So we also get a scene where we kind of see where the Valerians are. We see where his ships are initially um are basically destroyed, wrecked after the fight in the Stepstones, keeping them, and basically just what's left of the initial original fight and everything he's been doing to keep them aligned initially. And you also see Corlys Valerian coming in. He's definitely getting older. You also see a tender moment where he had a dagger. I did call it wrong when I first watched it. I called it wrong. I thought it was Leonor's dagger, but he actually had that made for Lucerys because he was the heir of Driftmark. So he actually had that commissioned for him, and it's sad. And one of the, I'm assuming he's like the head ship master creator guy. I'm not for sure. We don't really go into him, but he's basically like the head, and he does apologize for him. And as you can tell, Corlys is the same kind of similar to Daemon, where he doesn't know quite how to feel. He's just taking it all in. Losing Leonor, losing his daughter, losing his heir. He's injured. Like, it's just defeated. And then seeing the condition of his boats, he's just like, when can I get back out there? And he's using basically fighting in war as a way to grieve initially. But the boats are in disarray. Like, they gonna take some months. They gonna probably take a couple years, but they need to make some new boats, some new ships. And of course, guys, as I've said in the beginning too, if you made it this far, that this is not going to be in particular order. I'm going to do my best to keep it in order, but things happen. But the next scene that we come across as well is the scene where basically Jacaerys gets home, and he's trying his best to stay as professional, as calm as he can. And Rhaenyra's cleaned up. She looks clean, but you can tell her face is still flushed. She's still hurting, and seeing her walk up to Jacaerys and just gives him this big old hug. It was heartbreaking. I feel for them so much because if you guys remember, Lucerys was a tender boy. He was so sweet, and we all have that one brother, sister, nephew, cousin who is just tender and sweet and so kind, and he was so attached to his mother, and I bet that was heartbreaking for her, because I know all parents don't have favorites, and that's what they say at least, but I'm pretty sure Lucerys was one of her favorites. Because he was just a sweet boy, and for him to go that way, in that cruel, horrible way, it was just wow. So they hug it out, they grieve, they cry, and man, tearjerker, I can tell you that. Yes, guys, we have to talk about the scene. You know which scene I'm talking about. The scene. I'm not gonna lie, I was always curious about Alicent and Sir Crispy relationship, because I didn't think it was just, oh, you saved my life. I'm loyal to you for life. There had to be a little bit something else there, especially since Sir Crispy. For some women he's attractive. Rhaenyra sure did like him. um, he also reminds me. I don't know if you guys. He reminds me of Prince Charming a little bit. The prince from Ariel. Um, I'll put his name on there. I'm not a big Disney person, so I don't know his name like that. But he just reminded me of a Disney prince. The way the way he looks in design and all that stuff. But anyway, sidetrack. But the next scene coming up is Alicent and Sir Crispy doing doing the nasty, doing the, you know. But it's not full on, clothes. It's just he was underneath. He was traveling by the roads less traveled by initially, and I laughed. I'm not gonna even lie to you guys. I laughed. I don't know if it was her face. I don't know if it was the noise or the fact that after the fact he seemed like he didn't really enjoy it. And my whole thing about that was, guys, can he just be Rhaenyra's side piece? Because remember, his whole thing was making. I know he wanted to be the main. He wanted to marry her and run off with her. I know, guys. I know. But if you're just gonna be a queen side piece, why couldn't you just be Rhaenyra's side piece, Sir Crispy? That's why you're all mad, and that's why you're all this anyway. You're just all you frustrated and bothered because you wanted Rhaenyra. You know, that's my thought process. But yeah, so alrighty. So another one coming up was where Aegon was getting ready for a meeting with the council, and we saw Helena for after a while, and kind of see one of their children, one of the little girls, or the little girl. She's supposed to have 3 children. I'm not for sure if she's pregnant or there's a little baby somewhere, but you see one, and you hear Aegon initially ask for Jacaerys, the little boy, and you find out that he's in the library doing his, I'm assuming his studies or his task or whatnot. And Helena was like, you're basically not supposed to be disturbing him. These are important initially, and Aegon doesn't really pay her no mind because if you guys remember, Aegon never really truly wanted to marry Helena. There's always theories that Aegon always loved Helena, but Aegon was just kind of like, well, I gotta do what I gotta do. It's whatever. He kind of treated her kind of like a kind of situation. Because she was different. She's soft, she's gentle. She was always into the animals and creatures more so than human interaction. And I also wanted to talk about that because a lot of that had to do with the way Alicent raised her children. Because if you see Rhaenyra loves her children. Rhaenyra adores her babies. Alicent was more of a more softer Daemon in that way. At least that's the way I understood it. She was more distant, more kind of like, if I have to, because she deep down inside she didn't want to marry the king. She didn't want to marry Viserys, so she kind of had this resentment towards her title, and of course that's when she lost her friend, and everyone kind of just started treating her differently. She felt, and then of course Otto, her father, was telling her, her information, feeding her seeds of doubt and distrust and hatred towards Rhaenyra, trying to break up their little friendship and their closeness and whatnot. So due to her her resentment towards her title and what was going on, and the disloyalty and the feeling betrayed and all that, I feel like that rubbed off on her children. And you can even tell the way even Aemond acts towards her, and Aegon acts towards her. All her kids just seems like, okay, this is Queen. This is Alicent, initially. But yeah, so now this part was interesting. This scene where he was in a room with Helena, asking for Jacaerys. Now, it was interesting simply just because she also said she was afraid. And then, of course, Aegon was kind of like, why are you afraid? She's like, it's not the dragons, it's because of the rats. And now, I have two theories on that. It could have been the fact that she could be a dreamer as well. Maybe she had a dream that something was going to bad happen with the rats, or she just had a bad initially what's the word I was looking for? She just I believe she's a dreamer. I can't even say the second one because I truly highly believe, and it would be so interesting if she was a dreamer. And basically, if you remember in the story, that was the reason why the Targaryens moved to Westeros initially, so they can avoid the doom of Valyria. So I truly believe she's a dreamer, and and I hope that comes into play somewhere down the line if she survives, because at this point we all don't know. So that was that scene, and I truly believe hopefully she's a dreamer, and that's where she kind of foreseen the events, or they set it up for the events after the situation at the end. So, and we'll get to that, but yeah, so we get to the council, and Alicent comes in with Sir Crispy, and Otto knows. Otto's probably one of the smartest men out there, though we might not like him. He's not dumb. He sees everything, even though he might not know exactly. He knows something is going on between Alicent and Sir Crispy, especially the way, if you remember, the way he was looking at them, like looking at her, looking at him, like, okay. And then, of course, little Jacaerys comes in with Aegon. Aegon sits, and then, they just start discussing initially what to do about Rhaenyra. You can tell that Aegon doesn't really mess with Rhaenyra. He said we should have killed her when we had the chance. And then also too, you can tell that the council basically still kind of had a soft spot for her, at least one of them, because Alicent was like, is there any response from Rhaenyra? And he was like, from killing her, from her dead son, an apology, like what do you expect her to say? What do you expect her to do? And you could tell Alicent don't really care. And that's the part I was kind of just like, wow, as a mother to mother, you can understand at least somewhere, like, that was fucked up. Come on now. And you could tell she also still blames Aegon for the war. She blames Aegon that started the war initially, because in reality he started the war. He took first bloodshed, because if you remember at the end of during their meetings in season 1, Rhaenyra said, I am not doing the first. I'm not doing it first. I'm not going to start it. If they're going to start it, then they have to start it. That's who's going to start it, but I'm not going to start this war initially, because it's interesting that so many people put Rhaenyra as this bad person, but in reality, yes, she made some poor mistakes and poor choices, but she's not a bad person. That's why when Otto was talking all that trash to her in season 1, I was like, Otto, she is not that kind of person, but he had to feed his daughter doubt and scare her so she can do what he needed her to do. Okay, so yeah. So then also too, you also see that Aegon's not really paying attention. He's kind of one of those I don't give a shit, kind of like his dad a little bit. He doesn't really care about what's going on. He just wants to murder and get it done with. And he, you can tell the way he interacts with Jacaerys. He adores his son, and it's a beautiful sight. But it's also not the place for a child, because he's young. He looks like he's 3, 4, maybe 5, but he's too young to understand. So eventually he does leave. Aemond comes in, and of course you can tell Alicent is trying to shoo him out, like, no, you need to leave, this is basically your fault. And that's where Aegon was basically saying, like, I trust my brother, he's a great swordsman, I want him here. And you can see how calm and collected Aemond is, and he just says what he has to say, and he sits and he just looks at Alicent, kind of not in like anger, but kind of just frustration, because I'm pretty sure Aemond doesn't even know what to do with Alicent at this point, his mother. But yeah, I don't blame. So after the council meeting, two things happened that was big. Was initially when I called him the spider, but he's the youngest strong, if you remember. Um, the one with the limp. I just call him the spider. He's basically kind of reminds you of a little finger. Um, he meets with Allison outside her room, and she basically, he was like, I waited for you initially. I came in the morning, but they said you were, pre-composed, decomposed, or basically she was busy initially. I probably said that all kinds of wrong, but hey, it happens. Um, pre, you get the point. She was busy, and he was kind of looking suspicious because from this scene, it's important because it seemed like after the years passed, she kind of slowly starts distancing herself from the spider. Of course, I'll put a picture and his real name up, but she starts distancing herself from him, and you can tell because he's starting to feel kind of left out, kind of feel confused, and wondering why she's basically initially changing. But you also get some important information there that apparently someone basically initially told, and maybe that's why she's also distancing herself, is because someone initially told someone or the king or her father about her meetings with the spider, most likely, and he found out for her, and he basically hinted that they're no longer living. He took care of them, and he also gave her new staff members, because like right after that of their meeting, after of course another scene, she's taking a bath, and she's frustrated and irritated because she doesn't know these women, and so she just like, just leave, just let me do it myself initially. It's like she's almost regretting of allowing him in her keep. Now, another part that's interesting with the spider is when he meets with the king after the council meeting as well. And I found it interesting because he pulls Aegon to the side and basically tells him, like, initially, Viserys is basically considered weak initially, and I'm pretty sure you want to be viewed differently. And he's like, of course. Aegon's like, yeah, of course I do. I heard about, what they said about my father, and I definitely want to be viewed differently. And so he's just planting seeds initially. And he's like, well, Otto Hightower was your father's hand. And so I feel like I could be completely wrong. I feel like he's trying to get Otto out, so eventually Alicent will have to rely on him again. And that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. So I feel strongly about that one. So basically, that, and also too, I do want to bring up a part. I think it comes on after the fact, though, where Aegon is basically taking on requests and things like that from the common people, and you can tell Otto is constantly trying to basically tell him what he can and can't do, like with the whole sheep stealing. And honestly, I feel like that was kind of a hint to sheep stealer. Be completely wrong about that, but I think I feel like they were trying to throw a hint of sheep stealer in there. But initially, the first guy was initially Gerard, was talking about how basically the crown took his sheep and he needs it, and he was gonna give him a flock of sheep back, but then that's when Otto kind of cuts in and was like, nah, you can't do that. We already said that we're gonna take it for our dragons if we need it, so you can't do that. So Otto is constantly trying to either deter him from what's right or try to deter him from what's wrong. Basically, Otto's in control initially, as I felt like that's the reason why Alicent put him there, to kind of take control of the situation as he sees fit. But also too, Aegon had a little snap back, but you also realize too, Aegon is kind of this he's trying so hard to fit this king role to where he had the two guys behind him. I was trying to find a picture of it, but I call him Ronald Weasley and Harry Potter, and you got Draco Malfoy in the middle. Um, Basically trying to amplify his king's glory kind of situation by announcing his names multiple times. And you can tell Aegon just doesn't have it. He's just not a fit king for the position. So another tender moment that was really nice was when Rhaenyra had a little memorial service for Lucerys, and that was just where everyone could, basically say goodbye. And it was heartfelt. They each of the brothers, like the little baby brother Joffrey, he threw a little toy horse that, if you remember, where they were having Lena's funeral, he had and he was playing with. Threw that in the fire, of course. Each piece of clothing representing a time in his life initially. And it was beautiful, and I felt so bad for one of Damon's daughters. I'll put her name up there in picture, but that was her, supposed to be husband, and she won't even get a chance to even initially marry him because he didn't live long enough to, unfortunately, for that to happen. Unfortunately, so she's hurting. You can tell by her face. She's hurting. She's distraught, like they all are. And that scene was just absolutely beautiful. So another important scene, I believe, not I believe, I truly believe, was when Alicent was, basically initially doing some important work, I'm assuming, but she was in her room, or a room, basically initially where her and Otto, I think, meet from time to time, or it was his study. And Otto comes in, and that's when he informs her that it was just a long date initially, and that's basically where Alicent basically asks him, are do we have the same values? Do we come to the same terms of what we want? And she initially says she wants peace. She wants her Aegon to be on the throne. Rhaenyra bows or bends the knee, and it goes away quickly. And that's what Otto says. He was like, I want the same thing too. No, you don't, my dude. You never did, but okay. But he's basically said, I want this too, but it's not gonna happen that way. Initially. So that was a nice little interaction between Otto and Alicent as well, to kind of just see exactly how their dynamics has come throughout the years. And you can tell that they still don't really trust each other. You can tell that Alicent knows that her father is not to be trusted, but she's trying so hard because initially her father is biased towards her, so he will always take her side, and that was the main reason why she wanted them there. It's because he will always take her side. He will always have, basically, he's like a safety blanket, though he has his own agenda. She feels safe and feels like, though I don't trust you, you're my father, and I feel like at the end of the day you will have my back over anybody else's. So we also get some sea life a little bit, not so much. We get back to the Valerians initially, at least their ships. The few ships that they have left is like, it's good, like 5, just kind of floating. And also too, what I forgot to mention in the meeting, they were talking about, not the meeting, but when he was meeting with the people initially to see what requests that he could do to help fulfill, and basically, I forgot the actual word for it, but basically when he was meeting with the people of King's Landing and stuff like that, there was also a guy, the second guy, that was talking about how initially the barricade that Rhaenyra and Daemon, all them put up, is basically preventing them to get food out and trade and things like that. And the reason why I bring that up is because that's also when Aegon was like, well, I'll have Aegar break it down, whatever, kind of just shoving it off and kind of getting done with him. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is too because it's like, it's interesting because I'm pretty sure the scene where I'm talking about is where the open waters and you get the few boats of the Valerian is where they also find the sea snake, not the sea snake, the white worm. I don't know why I keep wanting to call her a snake, but whatever, the white worm. And they find her hiding it below deck initially, um, and that's where they basically take her to Daemon. Um, but I wonder if that's the barricade. It's probably not, but I was just kind of, thinking about that. I was like, is that the barricade? Because that's not a very good barricade. But yeah, they find they find the white snake hiding below deck, and basically gives her to Daemon, and she basically explains, if someone has money, I'm going to give him information. And she's like, I didn't initially do anything to for you to distress me, but I did give him enough information to Aegon. And Daemon is ticked, and she calls him out. She calls him out and says, you're only mad because your enemies, you can't grasp your enemies, so you're not even truly mad at me. And he was like, why didn't you kill him? He's like, why? She's like, basically, I'm doing it for the money. Basically, Otto used me until he didn't need me. You used me till you didn't need me. So it's like, at this point, I'm tired. I do what I gotta do to get my money to live another day initially. And that was a nice information because I felt like out of all the women in Daemon's life, outside of Rhaenyra, she kind of tells Daemon what's up. And I think that's why he has like a soft spot for her, because she's real. She's straight to the point, bam, 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 and she don't deal with Daemon's bullshit. And I don't blame her initially and stuff like that. So that was a nice interaction with the white worm. And then he does eventually say, hey, can you give me some type of information that's going to help me initially get revenge on the Greens? And he said, I'll exchange it for your freedom. So we also get a nice scene with Sir Crispy and Aegon. Oh my gosh, Aemond. I keep calling him Aegon. I don't know why. But Aemond, where they're kind of just basically discussing strategy. And also too, Aemond kind of opens up to Sir Crispy about how he feels about Alicent. Initially, he's like, she blames me. And talks about how she basically plays both sides. 1 minute she's for us and 1 minute she's for them. She's kind of just sorry guys. I am still getting over a cold, so my bad. But so initially that she's playing both sides. She's basically two-faced. And that's where Sir Crispy kind of basically says, it's not her fault. Rhaenyra basically drew her in and basically corrupted her and stuff like that. And I'm just saying, Sir Crispy, you're just frustrated because you loved her and she didn't want to give up her titles and royalties to run away with you. That's the only reason why you're mad, literally. And you almost fucked up your whole career and almost got killed, and Alicent saved you. So it's like, to be honest with you, his frustration toward Rhaenyra is kind of weird. Like, I get being hurt and almost even feeling betrayed, but at the same time too, he should have realized what this was, because that's what you are with Alicent. Just saying though. So it was interesting to see, kind of how Sir Crispy feels about Rhaenyra now, and how Aemond feels about Alicent, and how he just kind of calls her a fool initially. And of course, that's when Otto comes in and he basically kind of shuts the party down, and Aemond and Otto has a discussion. And of course, guys, if you made it this far, I want to say thank you so much. We are getting close to the end, so bear with me a little bit longer. And let's go ahead and finish this out raw and in detail to the best of my ability. But thank you for staying this long. Of course, like the video, guys. Like, share, and of course tune in to it's not going to be right after the episode. It's going to be a couple days after, because Sunday is coming up again. We're getting ready for a new one. So stay tuned. I'm gonna try to do this for every episode. So of course, guys, like it. All right. So the next scene we get is basically where eventually, now of course I don't have a picture up for this, but basically um Damon, he gets to King's Landing. He basically finds the soldier initially, or the people who don't fuck with the high towers at all, and he basically gets gold. He gets let in initially. And then he talks to, I believe the guy's name is Cheese or Rat. I think it's Cheese. Of course, I'll put their book names up there on the screen. And then basically he says, I heard you don't fuck with the high towers. Basically, I need you to get in the castle initially and take out Aemon for me. Here's half of the money, and I'll give you the rest when it's done. Now, he did also ask, he was like, initially, it's like, if I can't find Aemon, what you want me to do? And and then Aemon gave him a look. He also told him to take the soldier guy with him as well. So then, when they going through this castle and whatnot, you're seeing basically initially how they're getting through the tunnels. They're taking the water line initially, and all that. And the dog, you eventually find out the dog is just a decoy. He doesn't really need the dog initially. It's sad though, he kicks the dog. And then you also actually see like them actually get into it too, a little bit before, a little bit after he runs into the king sitting on the throne, drunk off his ass, talking to his little boys, his men friends, to boost him up. And that's also too where you find out basically, he was talking about how he kind of feels like they don't really respect him, that they treat him like a child initially, and then of course his friends are just agreeing with him. It's like, you're the king, nah. And you also find out that basically he has a lot of high respect for Aemon, and how much loyal Aemon is to Aegon. He said basically, I can send him out right now and he would do anything I want to. So basically call him a loyal dog initially. And that's interesting, and you can kind of tell that Aegon is the type of person that, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't really fully figured out yet, Aemon. But it seemed like he definitely does ride or die for his family initially. Like, like he said that, in one of the closest episodes when they were looking for Aegon, and he said, if they were searching for me, I will be found initially. He just seems like he's just more mature, put together. Just he got a lot of jam in his jelly initially. But he's an interesting character, but he's definitely loyal to a fault. And whatnot. So basically, the rat catchers come in, go past the king. The king is just drunk, so he don't care. They get in that squabble, kicks the dog. No, the puppy kicks the dog. He's like, basically, he was like, the big dude was like, hey, show me where to go. And he was like, nah, I thought you were gonna take over. They get into a little squabble. They eventually get up there. Of course, the big guy, he runs into one of the handmaids, but they leave. Now, I don't know if I'm pretty sure she didn't alarm nobody because nobody came, but she kind of just ran out. And then that's where the little screaming one, I believe is Cheese, he finds Rhaenyra, and that's when the big dude comes around, and he basically makes her choose. And he thought she was lying, but the big dude, he's like, nah. He said, no, the little one, if I remember, either the little one basically says, no, she's telling the truth. And sure enough, him, and I'm pretty sure they're probably going to take his head back to Damon to show proof that he did it. Ugh, that scene was just, that's a baby. I get it, war, but it's a baby. That hurts my heart. And then Rhaenyra, she was just in shock. She tried to win him over with jewelry, didn't work. She grabbed her daughter and she ran towards her mother room. Yep, she ran towards her mother's room, and her mother was getting it on with Sir Crispy again. She couldn't get enough of Sir Crispalot, and she's like, she got the boy. They got the boy, and she just kind of just shocked and stared, and that's kind of where the episode ends. Oh my gosh, I just feel for Helena. Even though Helena was not really all the way there, but I feel for her deeply. That's her baby, and oh man. Now, I actually wanted to say this because I've realized that a lot of people were really confused, especially the ones who never really touched up on the history or any type of information before they watched this. But they were really confused about why did they do it? Why did they do it? They said they were supposed to go after Aemon, but they didn't go after Aemon. Why did they do it? But if you remember, sorry guys, they literally said, well, in the book for sure, but basically, an heir. If he can't find Aemon, the next thing he had to do was find a male heir, and that's what the big dude actually said. He said, does that look like a male? Because he was confused on why Cheese was holding Helena. He said, that doesn't look like a male. He said, a male heir. So they literally stated in the freaking movie too, in the series, the episode, that, if you can't find Aemon, you look for a male heir regardless. A son for a son. That's the name of the episode, A Son for a Son. As long as it's a male and as long as it's an heir, you're good to go. So I've noticed a lot of people on the internet has actually truly missed that part, and I wanted to add that in because it says it right then and there. Yes, initially the goal was Aemon, but if he couldn't find Aemon, they had to go towards a male heir. Take him out. I don't know how you missed that, but some people don't pay attention. Alrighty guys, so predictions. What to expect next. So, what I definitely feel like Aegon is definitely going to do a repercussion against Rhaenyra. Now, how particularly? That's a new one. They might go ahead and send Vhagar to attack the threshold. Or maybe they also try to do another situation where Aegon might send someone to go attack one of Rhaenyra's sons. I'm not for sure, but I do feel like he is going to find a way to get revenge. He's going to be hurt for sure. He's going to be distraught. I that's all I got, to be honest with you, because I like I said, it's been a minute since I read and kind of touched up on my history on House of D, but I did do it. But I definitely do believe that the next episode someone is going to be murked, unfortunately, and they're gonna use Vhagar to do it. I truly predict that. Helena, I honestly, I think she's gonna be severely depressed. She's gonna take it really, really bad. I hope she initially don't herself, but I feel like like I said, reading the book, I remember that part, and if I remember correctly, like I said, spoiler, she does end up herself. I don't know if they're going to show it in that episode or they're going to let it kind of draw out into the next one, but she does not end up taking it well at all, and I don't blame her. Allison, I don't even know how she's going to take this. The way her attitude has been, like, I don't even feel like she really cares that much. I think she just wants to take out Rhaenyra because she's so over her initially, but I can't wait to see it, guys. I'm super excited. Definitely check it out this Sunday, 9 EST, so check it out. I want to say thank you so much, guys, for tuning into this video. I couldn't wait to talk about it. I'm super excited. I super duper cannot wait. But that being said, guys, give this video a like, share it, show it on social media, share it. Go follow me on TikTok, go follow me on Instagram. Come follow me, guys, and let's get into it. And of course, in the comments, guys, tell me what was your favorite part of this video, what's your favorite part in House of Dragons, and if you're excited and whatnot. But I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for tuning in once again, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.